Hey everyone, welcome to this do the webinar on the hidden gems behind Microsoft advertising. I'm so pleased to be hosting you today. My name is Jim Banks. I'm the CEO of Space Visa, it says below, and I'm delighted to have a good friend of mine who we've known each other for probably 15 years, I guess, Navah Hopkins, who has taken on a fairly new role fairly recently with Microsoft. Her journey to kind of get to that point has taken her through lots of different companies. So she worked for WordStream for a long time. Then she kind of worked for a few agencies. She ended up being the brand evangelist for Optimizer, which is a SaaS product. And now she's landed in the I think is probably the most ideal role for somebody with Navah's experience and her abilities as a sort of educator and speaker. So Navah, welcome to today's webinar. Great to see you.
Thank you for having me, and thank you to everyone for investing an hour with us to talk about Microsoft. I am 100% aware that not everyone wants to invest the time in Microsoft, aside from maybe an import. So the fact that you all are here and we're going to unpack all the value that you can unleash with Microsoft, it's good. A lot of fun.
Yeah, it's funny. People always say to me, what do you think of Microsoft? And I say, well, privately, I always say I absolutely love it. It's always my secret
Yeah.
weapon. I tended not to tell people about how good the results were, right? Because I didn't want to have more competition. Whereas I think I'm a bit more long in the tooth now. I'm more accommodating for other people having success as well. But for me, it's as Navah said, it's kind of we're at a period of time now where a lot of people are going on vacation, so on. So anyone that's joining us on the call live, thank you so much for doing that. You will get the opportunity to ask any burning questions you have about Microsoft advertising at the end, but Navah has got a fantastic presentation. I've had a look at it in advance. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to you, Navah, to kind of take it away and tell us all about Microsoft hidden gems.
Sounds good. So, just so that everyone's aware, I'm going to be sharing with you things that are live, things that you can do today. If you have thoughts, feelings, questions about things you would like to see within Microsoft advertising, would love to hear that feedback. Part of my role is to be a feedback loop for the product team. And so, as we're thinking through how to find those hidden gems. If you have a hidden gem you'd like for us to uncover for everybody, definitely let us know in the comments. So in terms of starting the conversation, I thought it would be useful to level set with some data. And for those of you who are unaware, Microsoft is more than just Microsoft advertising. Microsoft also has a beautiful AI agent in Copilot. And one of the stats, I found all of these stats really interesting, the 53% higher likelihood to purchase and the 194% greater post-chat purchases when someone engages with an ad on Copilot, and ads are live today on Copilot. Um, it was the 25% more ad relevance stat that I thought was really interesting to dive into. Because as we're thinking about the future of search, it's more than just keywords matching to static creative. It's more about how can we contextualize the user's desire with the ways that we can help them. And so Copilot is uniquely more qualified than a traditional search result page to drive that relevancy. So I definitely encourage everyone, if you haven't already, play with Copilot, both the desktop and mobile version. And definitely, if you have thoughts about how our ads are serving there, would love to take that feedback on board. Uh, just so that you can see how ads do sometimes serve, and it is worth noting that PMAX does have that higher likelihood of serving within PMAX, although we do support text ads, multimedia ads, shopping and other vertical ads serving within Copilot. We typically will try to hold the ads back until maybe one or 2 points in that conversation. So it's not going to be the very first thing that gets pushed. It might be the second part of the second response or even the third. And the reason for that is that ultimately we we don't want to just hit people over the head with advertising. We want advertising to be useful. And when advertising isn't useful, it's just annoying, and then you create bad brand sentiment. So, a big part of how we think about Copilot and creatives there is really about making those better experiences. And as I mentioned, that higher likelihood from PMAX serving creatives within Copilot, we do see that much higher likelihood of serving in Copilot than responsive search ads and shopping. Although I will say, if you are unsure about whether to lean into PMAX, a really good second step, and this is kind of one of my, I'm giving a spoiler of one of the hidden gems, is multimedia ads. That's because multimedia ads have their own auction, they have their own spot on the search result page, and they combine the visual nature of the creative. 65% of folks tend to be visual learners, as in they like to see something versus hearing it or learning by doing. And so by leaning into that format, you're not only taking advantage of a spot on the search result page or a potential spot in Copilot that people aren't taking advantage of, you're able to actually speak to consumers in the way that they like to be spoken to. Now, in terms of PMAX stats, I thought folks would find it interesting just to see what folks are seeing when they are leveraging PMAX in combination with search. So really interesting when accounts that used phrase match in their search campaigns and then had a separate PMAX campaigns, there was a decrease overall in the account of 69%, cheaper cost per acquisitions, 17% greater return on ad spend, and a 9% increase in conversion rates. So there is a marked improvement that comes from following the user throughout the journey and having a campaign type that, again, can speak to the user in the way that they want to be spoken to, but also honoring that you, the amazing, brilliant human who have identified the exact right ways of targeting a user, should parlay that intelligence into the conversation. And as just a general reminder, because I think a lot of folks forget the width and breadth of Microsoft, Microsoft represents over 1 billion people globally. I included the United States stats. I'm actually curious if folks want to sound off in the comments where you're phoning in from. I'm happy to, during the Q&A, see if I can find the stats for you for the unique audiences in other markets. But there are some really powerful, unique audiences that aren't available on Google, they're not available on Instagram, they're not available again on YouTube, Pinterest. So there is power in the Microsoft audience, and this is not meant to replace your existing investments, but it's absolutely leaving money on the table not to have that incremental investment. And it's also important to note that Microsoft represents a really useful path to CTV and premium streaming. The reason that not enough people engage with video is usually the creative. And one of the nice things about Ad Studio is that we'll actually help you create creative that will pass creative muster, the editorial policies on these amazing channels. In terms of the placements, we're always looking to add more publishers on. And if there are folks that you would love to see as part of the Microsoft network, absolutely bubble that up. We love to make sure that we're empowering our customers in the way that they want to be empowered. And then likewise, if there are placements that you find super interesting that you weren't aware of or that you would like to explore, definitely let us know. And this is the last bit before we really dive into the hidden gems. Microsoft Clarity is probably one of the coolest things that Microsoft has ever given to the industry, particularly because it's free. This is a free set of behavioral analytics that allows you with negligible, i.e., it's basically not going to feel it in the tag in terms of getting the pixel on, give you that free behavioral analytics about what's happening on your site. So, for example, someone comes to your landing page and they click around and they're engaging with things that seem like they're buttons, but they're not buttons, or they're not able to submit the form, or they submit the form multiple times. You're able to understand that there are some real friction problems. So it might not be the account that's missing on driving those conversions, it's actually the landing page itself. Additionally, if there are things that the user really gravitates to, or you see that pretty consistently there's a similar workflow, you can then know what's a useful template in your landing pages, in your content to really lean into and where to lean away from. So I definitely recommend, if you haven't already engaged in with Microsoft Clarity, again, it's absolutely free. It's a flick of the switch. If you're setting up your UET tags, you also can set it up independently of running any Microsoft advertising. And it's just an incredible, incredible resource. And again, absolutely free. So let's get to our hidden gems. And I included based off of what I was seeing come through in the comments. However, if there are things that I'm not talking about, please put them in comments, put them in questions. I may not be able to have a visual to show you, but we'll definitely talk through it, and then there can be a great follow-up after. So the first is that multimedia ads, and I already sort of spoke about this, so I'm not going to spend as much time on this slide, but I do want to really drive home that multimedia ads represent a powerful, powerful path to high spots on the search result page. It's that top big bold spot on the right-hand side. You get a big image, amazing creative, and it's an independent auction from your text ads. You're able to serve right alongside your text ad, and it's its own spot within Copilot. All you need to do is set up that multimedia ad within your existing search campaign. So there's absolutely no additional effort needed other than just having that multimedia ad run within that search campaign. So as I mentioned, you would create your campaign. And once the campaign is created, you would choose the ad type as multimedia. And then for the creative assets, you can partner with Copilot, and Copilot within the Microsoft advertising platform is an amazing resource to help you pivot tone, to help you adjust your creative, or you can add your own images as is, or even use your URL to help find images to power that multimedia ad. Now, this with impression-based remarketing is the thing that I have been going off nonstop about on LinkedIn, on other socials. It is one of the coolest things that no one is doing yet. It launched late last year, and impression-based remarketing effectively lets you target people based off of only seeing your ad. They don't have to click. There's two really important reasons why this is incredibly interesting. The first is that traffic overall is moving towards impressions over traffic. We're no longer living in a search economy where a click is necessarily going to happen, where a visit to a website is going to necessarily happen. Sometimes that really powerful engagement is off of just seeing something really compelling and being present in the user's mind. The second reason why it's incredibly useful is that there are some placements that we may have previously discarded because they're just too far left of field, there may be too far up the funnel, there may be too experimental, but by capturing that impression, you've begun a warm conversation with that user. So there's the ability to recapture the value of those placements that we may have previously excluded. Now, it's important to note with impression-based remarketing, so long as you have at least one audience ad campaign, either ad group or campaign in the cohort, you'll be able to target any campaign, search to search, PMAX to PMAX, audience ad, to search, so on and so forth. If you don't have at least one audience ad in the cohort, impression-based remarketing then defaults to a search or PMAX campaign can target audience ads, or an audience ad campaign can target search and PMAX. It's important to note that while CTV can't be targeted with impression-based remarketing, you can use CTV impressions to fuel your impression-based remarketing lists. And again, this is based off of humans who see ads. It's not based off of just a set number of impressions that you have to hit. So this is all, you're targeting cohorts of humans. This is also done from a privacy standpoint where the individual users are kept secure. So on the topic of audiences, I wanted to make sure that everyone's aware of what's available within Microsoft. Obviously, we have the kind of default audiences of in-market based off of the signals that we have, and we see that 42% higher conversion rate than when those audiences aren't being used, or when there's no audience being used. There's similar audiences. There's dynamic remarketing based off of the product, and that would flow into an audience or display sort of creative. There's customer match where you can provide your own users. But then we get into LinkedIn profile targeting, which is a unique, amazing resource for Microsoft. We also get into the predictive targeting based off of Microsoft's unique first-party signals. There's a lot of really powerful value available to you from a targeting perspective. And it's important to note that Microsoft respects and honors that some of us like manual campaigns. And so bid adjustments are a way to use these audiences, or you can stick with auto bidding and leverage them as targets, or again, bid adjustments and exclusions. Now, I shared this, I think it was 2-ish weeks ago, the updates to the audience planner. We did some massive updates, but if you weren't aware, there's an absolutely free resource within Microsoft Advertising that will allow you to see the full width and breadth of what your audience targets should do based off of the budget that you're prepared to set. And Microsoft will actually tell you if you're budgeting too much, too little, bidding too high or too low. You can create campaigns off of personas that you've targeted with these different audiences, and you can see the impact of the audience you've targeted against the full cohort of the Microsoft book of business of humans. What that means is that if someone has really unrealistic targets, and they've set really unrealistic KPIs, you can show them, listen, what you've asked for is unrealistic, but there's this whole other series of people we can target based off of the goals that you've told me. What do you think about this? And so we have a really beautiful visual to put to the kind of pragmatic math problem. And it's important to note that this data works for search and for audience ads. Now, Performance Max, there's a series of things I want to talk about in here. Performance Max does its best job when you have at least 30 conversions in a 30-day period. And the reason for that is that it needs data. So if you are not going to have enough conversions, you have two choices. Choice number one is to use micro conversions and just know that that's what you're doing. And that means you don't report the conversions and you set appropriate conversion values associated with those micro conversions. The other option, and this is important to note, is that you delay PMAX until you have enough conversions, and maybe you run shopping, search, and audience ads as standalone campaigns with slightly higher budgets to pull in the data that you need, and then you can dial those budgets back. It's important to note that any budget change 15% or lower does a fairly negligible learning period impact, or has fairly negligible learning period impact. Once you start going above 15% budget changes, that's when you start really triggering learning periods, and you need to think about that. So in terms of our creative, it's important to note that you can set rules for your PMAX campaigns to have the different targets. So just like you would do with a dynamic search ad campaign, you're able to have the content rules of saying, I do want to see this or I don't want to see that. And of course, you're also able to leverage search themes. We definitely love search themes here. Search themes absolutely empower account performance. They really do help on the Microsoft side. And then, of course, layering in audiences. Much like a Google PMAX, the signals are signals, they're not targets. However, we do absolutely factor those in consideration of where budget gets placed. Now, in terms of reporting, I know we all have thoughts and feelings about PMAX and reporting and what's available. So I wanted to make sure that everyone's aware, this is the reporting that anyone today could go into your account and see under reporting or under the campaign these reports available. And I pulled a couple of the ones that I find particularly interesting. And then we'll finish up with some additional data that you can find, and then we'll go to the open Q&A and Jim's thoughts and feelings about all these hidden gems. So the first one is the search term insights. What I love about this is that we're actually able to see the clusters of uh, different ideas that are similar to each other, but still showing search terms. And so long as there's at least a click, the search term should show. Where we won't show search terms is when there are 0 clicks. So just bear in mind that uh, when there are search terms shown, it's because someone has actually you've actually paid for that search term. For the audience insight reporting, this is incredibly useful to identify where you might want to exclude certain folks, but then also layer in as signals. And then also the asset account level and asset level audience insights are also really, really useful. This is particularly important as we're starting to think about creative and how we might want to shape different messages based off of different personas. And then the shopping performance dimension report for those of you that are in e-commerce. I apologize, I didn't ask at the beginning. I'm so used to doing this at the beginning. So for those of you that are in lead gen, I'm sorry this is not interesting, but for those of you in e-commerce, you're able to see the shopping performance dimension report to really get a sense of which products are getting visibility. And if they're not getting visibility, where we can maybe adjust that. I did want to spend a little bit of time talking about the migration from with max conversions now having TCPA as an optional goal and max conversion value as with an optional TROAS. We actually added the bid cap on max conversions and max conversion value. So nothing has changed at all. You still are absolutely able to have your TCPA bidding and your TROAS bidding with those bid caps. They're just now located under the max conversion or max conversion value, respectively, bidding strategy. So really do make sure that uh, you're leveraging them. For those of you that were running TCPA and TROAS, those were already migrated August 4th. And for those of you that are creating net new campaigns, yay, go create net new campaigns. You should be seeing it under max conversions and max conversion value. Now on to the Copilot insights and the conversations that you can have with your data in the Microsoft platform. I don't know how many of you are aware, but you can actually, in the top navigation bar, do a search for any number of really interesting insights to find those specific tools. And then there's also the Copilot chat functions in the bottom. So absolutely be empowered to ask any navigational question, but the things I pulled here are more functional. So for diagnostics, think of this as us telling you where maybe you're missing assets, maybe where something is paused, maybe where there's under delivery, there's something not quite right. Diagnostics are just a really helpful way to get a sense of, is there something that needs fixing? And you can ask any question you need of Copilot within Microsoft Advertising Platform. The performance snapshot is super handy, especially if you're running multiple accounts and you need to pull reports really quickly. This is a very useful way to get a sense of what's going up, what's going down. We'll share data visualization with you for you to pull that. And what's nice about the performance snapshot also is that you can ask for specific questions within the performance snapshot. So if you have thoughts and feelings about a campaign that you were running and you want to be able to pull and prove that a test was successful or unsuccessful, you can ask Copilot to pull that information for you. And then if you want to do that comparison, say, for example, you're looking at 2 different markets that have very similar structure and you want to get a sense of, is there a market impact on the campaign performance? This would give you some of those insights. And with that, we are at the end of the slideshow content. And now we'll go to the open questions where everyone can ask whatever you would like.
Well, while you're just transitioning the slide off the screen, whether that's you or Anton, I don't know, either of you, you can just end the presentation. There we go. That's good. Thank you. So Navah, thank you. That was phenomenal. Really enjoyed that. Again, for me, I think the thing I like about you being in this role is you're always inquisitive. You're always kind of happy to share information. I guess for me, again, in the absence of questions coming in from the audience, I have a few questions of my own, as you would expect me to. So I'm kind of always curious. One of the challenges I've always had as an agency owner is, like people always kind of compare Google and Microsoft, and I think Microsoft, like I said, it's always been for me a phenomenally successful channel. But I think a lot of people make the mistake of importing their campaigns from Google and just leave them exactly as they are. So what would you say, having kind of worked obviously in your previous roles to where you are now, what are the sort of most common things that you see people that kind of use the importing not doing that probably is catching them out?
So there's a couple of things, and it's actually really funny. In one of my roles, I actually created a whole import cheat sheet. It's unfortunately no longer valid because Microsoft has made a whole bunch of amazing updates. So I definitely have thoughts and feelings here. The first most important one is to go under the advanced settings and confirm what you actually want to be imported regularly, if you want anything imported regularly at all. The reason for that is that once you begin an import, the campaign that was imported is going to have a stored ID. So any changes you make, say on the Google side, will be made to the campaign or ad group or asset or what have you on the Microsoft side. So that's thing number one. Thing number two is to remember that Microsoft actually thrives on giving you control at the ad group level just as much as at the campaign level. So you may have had to have 10 campaigns on the Google side to cover lots of different locations or lots of different times. Whereas on the Microsoft side, you can consolidate that a little bit and have ad groups that are for each individual market that would have been a campaign, and then it all gets folded up under that single campaign view. And because you have those ad group level location targets and schedules, you're not competing with yourself. You're separating the auctions by time or by location. The other important thing to note is that Microsoft allows the user to choose whether they want to have the ad serve in the time zone of the account or the time zone of the user. Why that's important is that Google serves ads only in the time zone of the account. So you may have had to do some really funky math with your ad schedules depending on the time zone you set up your account with. That just may not make sense once you import it over. So just make sure that you check those schedules. As much as it is my job to be like, yay, Microsoft, everything Microsoft does is amazing. I do need to be really transparent. Auto bidding is not going to make sense if you have 0 conversions. And if you're starting a brand new account, you have 0 conversions. So a lot of the Google campaigns are going to be on some sort of smart bidding or auto bidding that probably doesn't make sense on import. It might make sense in a month, it might make sense in 90 days, and definitely once you have at least those 30 conversions in a 30-day period, absolutely lean into maximize conversions with a goal or maximize conversion value with a goal. But until such a time, eCPC is perfectly reasonable. I also would highly encourage everyone to make sure that you have image extensions at the account level. This actually applies to Google as well. So fun Google tip in the Microsoft webinar, make sure that you actually are taking advantage of image extensions. Not only will they enhance your creative on the search result page, they actually unlock on both platforms additional placements that can be really, really powerful for you and your creative. It's important to note that adding an image extension is not the same as a multimedia ad. There are some folks that get that confused. So just make sure that you have that separated. The other thing that is important to note is that Microsoft is a desktop first platform. We are doing a ton to iterate on that. We have a lot of really amazing partnerships In gaming, we have a lot of amazing enhancements with our mobile partners. But if you're coming to Microsoft, you're coming to a desktop first ad platform, which means bids tend to be different on desktop than they are on mobile. Mobile actually tends to be a little bit more expensive because people tend to bid up on mobile. And so your bids may be too aggressive coming from Google. So you may want to look at decreasing some of those bids. Additionally, your creative may be mobile oriented. And while you should have mobile orientation to a certain degree on Microsoft, exclusively building for mobile is going to leave something to be desired. So I would definitely encourage desktop oriented, creative and desktop oriented targeting. The other thing to remember, and this is really important, is that Microsoft, as amazing and wonderful as it is about communicating it, when you import, not all creative will meet standard, i.e., if someone says that they're the best and they don't back it up with on their landing page awards saying that they're the best, that actually could get the ad disapproved. So if you see that creatives didn't make it through, or if you see that you're getting editorial flags, it is not that Microsoft hates you or that like there's like they're out to get you. It really is just that we have very strict standards about being authentic, that if you make a claim, you have to back it up, and that editorial needs to be inclusive. We need to be respectful.
Thank you for that. What just can I just kind of circle back to the reducing the bids on an import? Do you have a kind of like a ballpark percentage? Is it a percentage number or like what do you
So
kind
so
of
in my word
it
stream days, I would do 20 to 30% decrease. That's out of date. It really is a vertical by vertical. And what I would actually really suggest everyone do before you do your import and make the mass decisions, go into the audience planner and see who are you planning to target, what is your budget, and you'll get a sense of what should the bids be, what should the budgets be. Because for me to tell you a number, it's going to be too generic and too kind of all encompassing that to be useful for individuals. So I would definitely I'm going to say 12, 15 years ago, 30%. Today, go to the audience planner and actually find out for you and your business and your goals what is a good bid for those targets.
That's a really good tip there for people. For me, that's again, that's an absolute hidden gem because for me, I've always been amazed how many people they set up an import, they think it's going to be just done the one time, but effectively what it is they've set up an auto import every day, and what it does is it rewrites whatever they've changed. It kind of rewrites it the next time the import is done. And I just wondered if there's anything that people could do to prevent that from happening. Is it just to do the one and done, or is there an alternative way to do that?
So the one and done is good if you're going to take the time to truly manage your campaigns. However, this is a big however, if you're going to do the on repeat, I would look at how often are you making changes in Google. So if you're making changes in Google once a month, have it run once a month. If you're doing weekly changes, I still might argue that once a month is a good place to make those changes so that you can see if you like the changes before you import them over. And the other thing to note, I didn't have the slide for this. I actually like taking some of the search insights from Microsoft and the placement insights from Microsoft and applying those learnings to Google. So for example, the placements in search partners, we have zero visibility on that on the Google side. We'll tell you all of the placements that where your ads serve. You can take those placements and make exclusions if you so desire, or even targets if you like really love a particular placement. Same thing with the search terms. No comment on the other terms on the Google side. On the Microsoft side, So long as there is a click, we should be showing you those impressions. We should be showing you those search terms. So you're able to get insights into the search terms that maybe you wouldn't have been able to see on other networks. And you can make whatever exclusions or targets that you like.
So one of the challenges I've always found is the difference between Google Ads broad match and Microsoft Ads broad match. They're very different. Can you explain what those differences are and kind of like how to kind of combat that?
The core difference between broad match on Google and Microsoft is Google's signals just include more things. Microsoft's broad match looks a little bit more at intent. Like it's a little bit more purely grounded there. To be candid, I would push people at this point to look at PMAX over broad, unless you truly do not have the conversion thresholds, and use exact match and phrase match to target.
And on the conversion threshold at 30, I mean, I know that sort of Google kind of changed theirs and it's a lower number now. Is Microsoft working towards that with their AI to kind of make it a lower number? Because in a lot of cases, I mean, 30 sounds pretty it can sound, pretty low, but, I think in a lot of cases, 30 conversions sometimes is way beyond what people are looking for. And
So
I guess
it's interesting. Google might claim 15, but if you look at what a lot of folks on the Google side will say, like they land on the 50. And candidly, I would land on 52. It's not that you magically can get better results off of fewer conversions, because if you don't have statistical significance, there's no amount of improvement in an AI that's going to make it better or worse. The more important thing to focus on is the quality of the conversions, the efficacy of the conversions. So if you can't reliably get 30 conversions that you trust are true conversions, you probably are going to want to go with a different campaign type or use manual bidding. If you can hit that, then there's no reason not to lean into the auto bidding and not to lean into PMAX.
So one of the questions that we've had from one of the attendees, BIS Consulting Group, two questions actually. For an agency with clients already seeing success on Google, what's the most compelling way to present Microsoft Ads as a valuable addition to their strategy?
So I like pushing three things, and this comes from the days when I used to run the PPC arm for an SEO agency and would have to sell Microsoft in plus Google, as well as the channel partner days or channel partner manager days at various software companies. Microsoft represents incremental reach beyond Google, and there are placements that people will go between the two, that if you're able to follow them across both, you can really make sure that you own the conversation. If you let your competitor talk to them on Microsoft and you're only talking to them on Google, you're leaving it up to chance that they're going to fall in love with your competitor. The second reason I really love Microsoft as an add-on is the data intelligence for tests to running different campaign structures, the search term insights, the placement insights that you can then take back over to Google if you like. So if you're running, say, $10,000 a month on Google and you pitch 1,500 data intelligence to go on Microsoft, and then depending on the results, you might decide that you want to push a little bit more over. That's a really reasonable way to build the intelligence, but then also to make sure that your Google investments are doing well. And then the final reason I would say that Microsoft is really, really powerful, and this is where it's a little hokey. We tend to be the good guys when it comes to sharing what is happening with data. If you look at our AI principles, we focus a lot on inclusivity. We focus quite a bit on security and privacy, transparency. And so when you're thinking about where to put your marketing dollars, there's a certain amount of trust that Microsoft does tend to represent a fairly trustworthy, and I'm not saying other platforms aren't, but a fairly trustworthy mechanic.
So, and William had a question. You can import from Google to Microsoft, but not the other way. He starts most of his campaigns in Microsoft first and then have to manually build in Google. Is there a shortcut as to how to do that?
I would suggest if knowing who you are, API mechanics, I think you'd probably do really well there. The other thing that you could potentially look at doing is using AI agents to take the structure and build a script to pull that in on the Google side. But I'm in the business of helping people get set up on Microsoft. We can maybe Judah can have Jenny in and she can talk through the Google side.
Yeah, we'll have a showdown between you. No, I know.
It'd be a hug out session.
Again, for me, I love the fact that we've got two industry veterans who really know their stuff at the kind of product liaison roles at both Google and Microsoft now. I think that's, for me, is a phenomenal kind of achievement. One of the things I've always had a kind of slight issue with, running an agency, having an agency partner program was always an integral part of, working with the providers. And I've noticed that because of the onslaught of AI now, that a lot of the functionality that agency partners used to have has kind of gone by the wayside. And I was wondering if you could just talk a little bit about what Microsoft's current agency program is and what plans there are for that moving forward.
Yeah, so we actually have quite a number of amazing programs. We have actually a new business program that will help you get clients started on Microsoft. You do need to have certain spend minimums that you'll meet, but it's specifically designed to help agencies or help brands get started on Microsoft and offer for 6 months the premium support usually held for our top tier customers. So that's one thing that's really useful. We offer the diagnostics. I don't know why this picture is on there, but that's okay. I love Jenny. I just the picture caught me by surprise. Um, the next mechanic is the diagnostics within the platform. So agencies typically have quite a lot of work to do in terms of reporting. And so one of the things that we really invested aggressively in is making life easier on the reporting side. So that's why those diagnostics are there. We, of course, want to empower you to also have premium levels of support and potentially access to betas. So getting into some of our more premium programs definitely is a way to do that. But one of the things, especially since I joined Microsoft, that I want to make sure people are aware of, we are absolutely laser focused on customer success. Like we really want you all to have a good time when you invest your dollars with us. Not just that you're profiting and that obviously we want you to see a good ROI, but we also want you to feel like when you talk with us, you're being heard. And so I would definitely encourage everyone, if you get stuck, talk to customer support. Put in that ad support ticket. And if things don't go great, bump it up. Like share it. Like we're happy to improve. Um, but the agency question that I think you were asking was less about what resources does Microsoft have, but kind of where do I see agencies fitting in as still a resource and still viable, as opposed to like, will agencies still matter and exist? And the answer is unequivocally yes. Because even if there are all these amazing resources, not everyone's going to want to put their bandwidth into managing accounts or into knowing all of these things. And where agencies can really provide value is on creative and really owning that persona mapping, on really being those industry experts that can explain the why behind the how. That's really, really important, kind of demonstrating not just that you're brilliant, but that you have empathy for the client that you're working with, and that's something that at scale the platforms, Microsoft or any platform, are not going to be able to do. And then obviously there's also a real important human touch component to management. So yes, AI is great, and yes, AI can do a lot to help facilitate, but if there isn't human oversight, it's not going to be as exceptional as it could be. And so agencies are there to help clients achieve exceptional results. And for those that can't afford an agency, obviously there's AI assistants that can help achieve passable or maybe good. But for true exceptional value, like you definitely want to have someone who can oversee the accounts.
And then I have another question about Microsoft Clarity. What's the sort of take up on Microsoft Clarity been, and why do you think if people are not sort of taking it up, why is that? Because if it's free, then it seems like a bit of a no-brainer. I mean, I implement it for all the clients I work with, right? Because it gives me, as you say, gives you insights into specific problems that people are having navigating kind of landing pages and that sort of thing.
So a couple of things. Microsoft Clarity represents a tool much like GA4 is a tool. Um, the tools are free. The tools provide quite a bit of value, but you have to want to use that sort of tool. And I would argue that Clarity is a better interface than GA4. No shade at Google in general, but GA4, like I think we all can agree, it would be nicer if it had a more streamlined interface. But what makes Microsoft Clarity useful and special is that it allows you to understand how your users are interacting. So not everyone is going to have the bandwidth and the budget to factor that kind of intelligence in. So if you're a brand spending $1,000 a month on marketing and it's one of a million hats you're wearing, it's probably going to be really hard to dedicate the time to review Microsoft Clarity dashboards. If you're a brand spending $20,000 a month and your whole job is to run marketing alongside, so that means SEO, that means PPC, that might mean social, a couple other things, then yeah, Microsoft Clarity is going to be really, really great. So I don't know that it's fair to say that there hasn't been huge uptick. It's just when we think about behavioral analytics, not everyone creates the mental space for behavioral analytics. Those that do, Microsoft Clarity is a beloved, amazing friend and partner, and we're proud to support folks. It's just creating the space for behavioral analytics.
So there's a great question in the comments now from BIS Consulting Group. Based on your case studies, what specific customer successes have you seen from B2B clients using LinkedIn profile targeting on Microsoft ads? Great question.
So one of my favorite people to point you to, because I want you to have objective, not from Microsoft, objective, is Andrea Cruz over at Tenuity. She is currently on mat leave, so don't bother her right now. But absolutely go talk to her because she has some of the most brilliant, wonderful, amazing case studies. I definitely would encourage you to hear the third party, not just from me, but I want to give that shout out. So in terms of specific results, what a lot of people will do is they will think about their personas and target based off of is my product or service best suited towards the purchasing manager, so kind of making the case to finance, or is it suited towards the CMO? Is it suited towards the owner? Is it suited towards the individual practitioner that has to be inspired to want to use the tool? Because frankly, if you're selling, for example, an expensive CRM, a CRM, we all know is useful, but depending on who is responsible for setting it up, depending on who is responsible for maintaining it, depending on all these different questions, there can be a lot of open questions. So using LinkedIn targeting to really get that messaging in, even once the sale is made, can help with retention. The other thing that I would really encourage folks to pay attention to with LinkedIn targeting is also the companies. So if you know that you're targeting a company for an RFP and you really want to win that business, you can start to push some creatives towards a company. Now, I'm not saying that you'll be able to do it for every company, but it's definitely something that you could get into.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people didn't realize that Microsoft bought LinkedIn a good few years ago, and again, you talk to a lot of people who run B2B ads, and they're not aware that doing that sort of firmographic and job related stuff is really an integral part of the actual platform itself. I must admit, Max, I agree. Case studies in digital marketing is fluff, right? And he likes how Navah navigates these questions. Yeah.
Well, so it's like, candidly, I don't know, when I'm sitting in a session, I I don't love hearing about case studies. I like hearing about tactics. But if folks want case studies, I promise I will send a whole bunch of specific case studies, and you can look at them and love them. But you all are investing an hour of your time. I want to make sure that you have actionable things that you can do. So I'm glad that's useful.
So yeah, I don't know. Are there any questions that I missed along the
One
way?
one thing I would actually love to get, there was a question or comment really further up around no clicks. Why would we pay for this? So I want to make sure that it's clear. Impression-based remarketing does not mean that you are paying for those impressions unless you're doing CPM or cost per milli bidding. Like, I want to be really clear on that. What it does do is it allows you to capture people that you otherwise wouldn't have been able to capture because they didn't perform an action that's conventionally trackable. So if someone comes to a search result page and they see your ad and they click on the organic result, but then 2 weeks later, because the impression-based remarketing can have an up to 30-day duration, it's 1 to 30 days. We suggest 7 days, but it could be up to 30 days. You are able to remind them about you because of an amazing video or display ad. That's the value of impression-based remarketing. That it does. You didn't even have to pay to get them in a remarketing list. And it's worth noting that impression-based remarketing is eligible as a signal in PMAX. So if you're looking for ways to kind of inspire PMAX in a more targeted way, that definitely is, or if you want PMAX to be more top of funnel aligned versus bottom of funnel aligned, it's definitely worth experimenting. How I tend to suggest separating out impression-based remarketing or structuring it, think about the persona that you want to target, and then the impression-based remarketing list should be targeted towards campaigns in the next logical buying stage. So if you're targeting me and my Star Wars gamer, metal, whatever interest you're targeting, you might get me on a Copilot conversation or a search ad or display, whatever. But then the target where you got me needs to be on actually making the purchase. So for example, I'm going to Rhode Island Comic Con. I am so excited to get my Baldur's Gate 3 Magic the Gathering card signed by all the actors. I am profoundly excited. It took me, I think, 40 impressions of Rhode Island Comic Con advertising at me through various methods before I actually pulled the trigger. And to be fair, I went for the super premium package. Like, it was definitely a high ROI for them. Like, they made money on me. But even knowing that it was something interesting, like, things just kept getting in the way, or I was waiting for bills, like the alignment there. So just know that impression-based remarketing is a way to keep the conversation going.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, you had a slide up about all the partnerships that you have in terms of connected TV, right? And clearly, connected TV is probably one of the biggest impression-based remarketing opportunities by virtue of the fact that most of the people don't click on the TV, right? I mean, I guess maybe you could, but most people don't. So typically, what they'll do is they'll pull out their phone and maybe type in the URL or scan the QR code if there's one on screen. That's how I think a lot of people are, closing the loop on the impression-based activity to the click-based, right? So people might say, "Oh, well, I got all this on the brand, and it was direct to site." And it's like, no, but if you know that there was an impression-based view beforehand, then clearly that's something that can be of great value.
So I know we're sort of close on time. I want to put it out to the group. Since we have time, what are some things that you wish Microsoft would do better? So if I can take a little bit of time selfishly for me, and so to make my job easier. So yeah, I'd love to see if there's specific feedback that you have for us. Or if you want, you can let us know something that you find useful. One thing I'll say that I'm super pumped that Microsoft is working on is the UI. I acknowledge that our UI could be better. It is something that we're actively working through. But again, one of the hidden gems that I called out is that search functionality. So I hope that I really would love for everyone, one of the go-dos, go test out the search functionality, not only for diagnostics, but to find resources within Microsoft Advertising. And I would love to hear post the webinar, do you find it easier to work in Microsoft? But yeah, if anyone has any areas where you would love to see Microsoft improve or something that Microsoft makes you happy, would love to hear it. Jim, I don't know, do you have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think the most important thing, all of us as practitioners in this industry, if we don't speak our minds and speak up and go, hey, this is an issue, then people can't fix things that kind of bug them, right? So it's like, by all means, come forward. And if enough people ask for something, then there's every likelihood that they'll take it seriously and do something about it. But I think obviously, as you mentioned, the UI, yeah, it's clunky, horrible. It's difficult to find things, but ultimately, I think most of these platforms are built by engineers, not marketers, and because of that, it's they just figure that we'll work it out, and we do. But it would be nice if we could do it in a more eloquent way and everything else.
So I'm curious, and I don't know if everyone is here in something that can do emoting, or if you want to chat in. If we could make one thing more intuitive, and you can just type it in either with UET conversion tracking or reporting. What would people love to see us work on next? Jim, do you have any thoughts while people are typing?
Yeah, I'll start. I think again, I think a lot of the the things that you can switch on that are optional, a lot of people really struggle to find them because they're hidden so well, right? So things like the auto tagging, with the MSCL KID, sometimes people just leave that off, right? So things don't get tagged in the right way, and that completely sort of decimates their ability to be able to see kind of the success. I mean, I've always kind of said, if you've got a campaign that you're running on 3 channels and you can say, right, that's how Facebook did, that's how Google did, that's how Microsoft did, then we can kind of see which one actually brings more value to the table for us, right? We know that Microsoft doesn't necessarily have the same volume of traffic, but the quality can far outweigh the quantity, right? It's not about quantity gain. So
And
quite a
it
few
seems like
people.
there's the conversion tracking. So one shout out, I didn't mention it, but we've got 2 minutes. Microsoft actually has quite a number of integration partners. Shopify, BigCommerce. No,
Shopify's new, isn't it?
So interestingly, Shopify has been around for a while, but we expanded to near global integration. So many more partners are there. And then in terms of why that's great is that you can actually manage your account within the interface. So you can do most work. I mean, for complex tasks, you do need to log into Microsoft Advertising Platform. So I definitely would recommend for those of you that are really getting stuck and you feel like the conversion tracking is tricky, definitely try some of those third-party integrations. For what it's worth, though, we want the feedback of where it's tricky so that we can make it better. Because ultimately, you shouldn't have to go to a third party. We should be able to do it for you.
Yeah, and I guess on that note, I guess we'll kind of, it just remains for me to say thank you so much, Navah, for kind of sharing your wisdom, your knowledge, and your time with everyone today. Obviously, the recording will be sent out to everyone that's kind of on here live. You'll get a recording. I'm guessing the slides will also be made available. And anyone that's kind of watching on catch up, we missed you live. You could have come along and asked your questions, but thank you for getting involved. So Navah, hope you enjoy the rest of your day. And to everyone else that's been watching this webinar, thanks for tuning in.
Cheers, guys. Thanks for having me.